This is probably the last vlog I'm going to be doing or trying to release on a Thursday for a while. I start my new job next week, in case you haven't seen the hiatus videos, so I'll either have to discontinue these vlogs for a few weeks until I get settled, or just move them to late Fridays to do after I wake up. And I'd rather not do the whole Friday thing, as, well, it's pretty much knocking up against the release dates of the next week's episodes, though it would allow me to finally be on time with Crunchyroll's releases of Ultraman Geed episodes. So I'll probably decide on what I'm going to do with this next week, or whatever. Ultraman Geed episode 4. I'm continuing to like this series, as it's continuing to introduce the main characters of the show, this time focusing on Moa Aizaki, who is a quote-unquote childhood friend of Riku's, and her family essentially took him in after the Crisis Impact incident and Riku was left in his human form. A lot of his philosophies and beliefs of heroism are inevitably her influence, as she's the one who got him into the Inside the Show Toku show that Riku gets his sitting around doing I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. Sitting around doing nothing won't help anyone. I'm paraphrasing it because I can't remember it off the top of my head because I am terrible with remembering things. Yeah, Moa is a goofball, but it fits her and fits the show as long as they don't overdo it, because it's not just one thing. It's just she has a serious persona and a more silly persona that comes out in relation. She has a sillier persona that comes out in relation to the given situation they are in, but those silly moments help build on her effectiveness and quick-witted thinking of things. It turns out, well, she has a cover identity of being a life insurance salesman, which is hilarious to me because you're in a universe with constant kaiju attacks, and as anyone knows, across all media that deal with the giant monsters attacking Tokyo, the life insurance companies are the first ones to go under because, my god, those premiums would be unmanageable. So it's metatextually hilarious and excellent cover identity for their secret organization, the AIB. I am also forgetting off the top of my head what the acronym stands for, but it's essentially a parody of the Men in Black, and it works so much. So it's if you translate these appropriately, Moa is a sillier version of Jay, whereas her partner is an alien for this immigration bureau that pretty much polices hidden aliens on Earth and hunts down those that are breaking the law, haven't immigrated correctly. Pretty much just the whole Men in Black stuff. But he is stoic like Kay because he's some type of... Okay, his disguise covers a solid mask that kind of looks robotic, but considering this is the Ultraverse, the Ultra Multiverse, the multi-Ultraverse, I don't know what to call the whole multiverse that encapsulates all the Ultra series, but considering how many things are actually organic but look robotic, I can't actually tell if it's meant to be a robotic synthetic alien life form or if that's just the sign of the alien. But yeah, her partner is an alien, which is amusingly like L in the Men in Black animated series, which, if you've not seen, is a really good adaptation, in my opinion, and is a really funny series. If you can find a copy of it anywhere, do watch it. But it's a good contrast between the two, because he's the unemotional hard-ass, whereas she's the goofy goober. It seems like they would work well as partners. And it's all started off with her and her partner busting this alien in hiding who has a contraband plant that when you touch its bulb, it makes you fall asleep. Because, rephrase, when you touch its bulb, it releases a pollen that's an instant knockout gas. And of course, this is shown visually by Moa accidentally bumping it and knocking herself out. But it's like, you would think that they would play up the klutz and screw up agent card with her, as that's the cliche. No, they're avoiding that. She actually is a very competent agent. She just has these moments where her goofiness supersedes her common sense. So it's like she's a newer agent. She's not exactly at the top of her game, and her partner kind of balances it out. I really like her character, especially with how she plays off of Riku and really informs why he's a kind person, or has developed into a kind person after forgetting whatever memories or malicious identity he might have had as Belial's son. It's like, it's hard to be a sad sack in the face of that kind of honest enthusiasm. So, I'm definitely liking her so far. It's especially showcased with how she and her partner end up tracking down an alien that they think is like another criminal scum, but is host to a little star in her body, and that's pretty much why they're tracking her. They have this kind of odd signal from her. They don't even really know what she did aside from some petty crimes, but it ends up crossing paths with Riku as he and Raiha, I'm forgetting her name because she wasn't that prominent in the episode, as Riku and Raiha split money to get a bike so they can more easily get around town. Not a motorcycle, just a pedal bike that Raiha will let him keep if, one, he pays her back, and two, he does all the shopping for her, which honestly makes it seem like she's being a bit overly assertive and not really balancing the chore allotment between them. But considering she's letting him have the bike, and if he just agrees to pay her back what she'll pay for it, it's like step forward, step back with her and in their developmental text. But this alien steals the bike simply to facilitate her getting away from them tracking her down, or so they think. Because what happened with her is she manifested the powers of a little star, seemed to go on a rampage, but it was all an emotional reaction to her race that she defected from, setting a Elect King monster. As they explain with this, apparently she is a defector from a race that commonly uses the monster breed of Elect King, so these monsters are not unique in this universe, despite the costumes age probably showing that it's probably an Ultra Series Showa monster. Yeah, it probably... Where is it on the list? Elect King. There it is. Elect King Kaiju first appeared in the Tokusatsu series Ultra 7. Elect King has been one of the most iconic monsters to appear through the Ultra series and has gone on to win the Japanese Best Monster Award for the Ultra 7 series. Yeah, I can see that. So, yeah, Ancestral Monster, the Ultra 7 connection makes sense for how it would use boosts, why Geed would need to use his boost Slugger form, which is the fusion of 7 and Leo, and also tie together all the common elements thus far of Geed bridging all these older Ultra series. He's the son of Ultraman Belial, who is the enemy of Ultraman Zero, who is the son of Ultra 7. 6 degrees of Ultraman, I'm guessing, would just be with this in this case. So it's working thematically for that, but the only reason Elect King wakes up is this specific creature, this specific alien, defected from its own race, so And out of irony, the Elect King they sent after her is the one she herself raised and put to sleep so it wouldn't harm anybody. So that's probably why the little star bonded with her, is that it sensed the lack of malicious intent and her wish to just live on this planet that she decided to call home and has come to embrace the living amongst the populace and all that. So it's become her new home, and I like this as my experience with the Ultra series has been 2 series and change, where we really didn't see much of the non-evil aliens. They popped up a bit. I'm remembering the one with the light, with the 2 feuding factions of the same planet, where one was only active in the light and one was only active in the dark, and they died in the other's environment. And that it wasn't truly evil, but there was kind of shades of complexity amongst them, and that kind of helped here as helping to show that not every alien is going to play to type, and some might be manipulated, some might have just changed their ways, and they're not that much different from people. I like this, as a lot of series don't bother to do this with their evil alien factions. I'm doing the air quotes because, yeah. And this helps to sell Moa's character, as she's understanding that just because she's new to this and just because it's her job to hunt down criminal aliens, it doesn't mean that they're all going to be uber mastermind evil, and helps set up her eventually learning that Riku is actually an alien and the Ultraman, and playing with the entire show's themes that just because something is born of or comes from an evil conqueror, killer, invader, that doesn't necessarily reflect on a given individual, which can be shown through the context of their own actions. I get a bit of Zero seeing that himself, as Ultraman Zero finally makes contact with Riku at the end of this week's battle to just pretty much cheer him on, know that he knows who he is, and pretty much just kind of set up that there's not an active antagonism, but he's still being cautious of them. So pretty much just a sign to keep doing what you're doing, even though it's made more obvious that Zero's only doing this because he doesn't have the power yet to take down Geed if it's all put on the line. If Geed actually turns out to be the villain they're thinking he might be, as Belial's son. So, words of encouragement if he's a good guy, words of warning if Riku is actually a bad guy. I kind of like the subtext of that. Something else we got from this episode that I'm betting is more elaborated on in the next episode, because details about it are already up on the Ultraman Wiki, is we got the first seeds of what actually happened in the Crisis Impact to have there still exist a universe after the universe was destroyed. The oldest and most powerful Ultraman is Ultraman King. He's essentially the god of all Ultras, where all of their power wellspring from, the creator of the plasma spark that gives life to all Ultras, and he's out of contact. The Ultras, all of the Ultras have the ability to heal injured individuals by fusing their power with them. We have that with the Zero, and in fact, that is perfectly seeding before giving. This is perfect seeding before giving this explanation, because not every person that is watching Geed is going to have watched enough of the older Ultra series where they had an Ultraman fuse with a human host to heal them to have this specific context. So setting this up as an existing Ultraman power makes sense for the next bit of exposition this series drops. To heal the entire universe, Ultraman King fused with the entire universe. I think that's a bit excessive for this specific power, but I'm going to give it to them because it was done by the Ultraman God, and the phrasing omnipotent, omniscient, God is everywhere. Yeah, they decided to take that a bit literal, so I'm giving them the pass on this, even though it seems excessive. Ultraman King, if I'm reading the details on the Ultraman Wiki correctly, first appeared in 1974, part of the series Ultraman Leo. Again, 6 degrees of Ultraman, with how Leo is Ultraman Zero. Leo is Ultraman Zero's mentor, one of the pieces to the Boost Slugger form, and thus makes sense for Ultraman King to be a relevant, prominent, influential character in this series. Jeez, they're really going deep with the mythology on this one, in a lot of ways. He's only made a total of 8 appearances before this, 3 of which were in Ultraman Leo episodes, and then 5 movies. Which... okay, might have made appearances in other pieces of the media. I'm seeing a listing for Ultraman Ginga, but that might just be cyclical stuff. And the rest is the Mega Monster Battle movies where Ultraman Zero is prominent. I'm kind of glossing over how all of that looks, but... so, Ultraman King has not been an overused, uber prominent character in the mythos, probably because spamming the use of God, that would get old. So they're definitely using their assets wisely, as far as I can tell from the information I'm gleaning and the relation of Geed's storyline. So I'm still interested. This actually adds a new twist, as now we're getting an idea of the end goal of the series, to wake the otherwise comatose, otherwise ever-present but uncontactable god of Ultraman, Ultraman King, to just wake up. And I'm not sure if he's going to finish healing the universe, or if his power will erupt into it. Actually, that might make sense, considering the Ultra Capsules store the power of all of the Ultramen, that they might be looking for Ultraman King's capsule to help restore him and finish the task of restoring the universe properly. And this might actually be where they're going with this, as one of Ultraman Geed's later fusions we know involves the Ultraman King Ultra Capsule. So I'm just speculating that's likely to be their end goal, waking up Ultraman King once all these other pieces are in play. One other note I should have before going on to X-Aid, and it's a bit of a squicky note. Moa seems to have some kind of brother complex towards Riku, as when she meets Raiha and learns that she and Riku are living together, she gets kind of, I don't want to say the word defensive, but she does an over-exaggerated spit take on as part of the goofier side of her personality, and then she seems to become a bit overprotective of Riku, and it's like, it seems like they're seeding that they're getting catty with each other because Moa has more than sibling feelings for Riku, and it's a bit squicky because they keep referring to each other as a sibling, but they're not actually siblings because there's no actual relation. And honestly, those are the grounds where it's not really squicky, but you might want to play down how you think of this other person who you might have romantic feelings for as the sibling thing, as that's not the way to see this. X-Aid. Game Deuce is a flop. It's like, you don't even spend the episode on him, and he's already been subverted, defeated, and taken over by Kronos. I really think they were building Game Deus up for the true ending movie, and yet it's such an afterthought to just get back to Kronos' nonsense that it's almost pointless. True, X8 true ending, we've assumed due to the seeding for presented in the series so far, that the little reset button that Kronos pulled a couple episodes ago was the timeline divergence point, as the movie antagonist has his cameos and then is just shoved off. But what happens here makes that suspect, because right after Game Deus is created, at the end of the last episode, then it jumps forward in an indeterminate amount of time past Game Deus's manifestation, where now everyone and everything is infected by Game Deus's virus. So, for all we know, the epidemic outbreak could have occurred during the events of the movie, where they're otherwise fighting Game Deus and then get sidetracked by whatever Kamen Rider Fuma is doing. So it might be possible that the X8 true ending is still canon, but by the laws of the good, bad, true ending of video game endings, they can't all... Okay, they can, it's usually not normally seen, but they usually don't exist on the same track. Like, if there's a bad, good, true ending, it usually requires going past some point where you stop before. So, in honesty, if the movie is the true ending, then there should be nothing else past it. Whereas, on the main series track, the storyline seems to be progressing beyond Game Deus. So, I don't even know what to think about that anymore. But Game Deus has apparently been reprogrammed by Masamune in advance, just in case someone got to him, to turn him into his own rampaging servant, to mass infect everyone and give them game overs, and thus funnel all life into the Proto-Gashats, so Masamune can literally take over the world and have all life subject to the whims of Genom Corporation, and get with them all in there, Genom Corporation will just, reprogram them? What is your end game with your world conquest scheme now, Masamune? Before, with you, trying to sell Kamen Rider Chronicle, you were kind of setting up this whole advertising scheme to make anyone they want, anyone that buys it, their own hero, and of course they'll eventually be defeated by the game system and thus become part of the big pot until you are the most successful business corporation, can literally buy and sell people. What is your end goal with this? Like, you don't seem to have a direction towards the megalomania. I mean, Drive made fun of this when when Tenjiro Bano eventually revealed his master plan was to digitize all life so he could reprogram it in his image. That seemed to be, as much as Drive made fun of that, it seemed like more of a goal than what Masamune has at this point, which is pretty much control all health, control all life. He is... Okay, God Complex definitely does seem to run into his family, but it's like Kuroto was creating things. Masamune just seems to be controlling of life. That's not really God Complex worthy. I feel like there's a breakdown in what his final motivation has become at this point, if it's not just spite. So, he has Game Deus. Actually, how did he reprogram Game Deus? Kuroto couldn't reprogram Game Deus. Was it because he has the Master Kamen Rider Chronicle Gashat that he could hack the system to redirect what Game Deus would actually do instead of, allowing it to be its own character? This has been a consistent problem with almost all of the Bugster enemies. like, bar Asuna, Graphite, and actually we barely even got Graphite and would not have him except for that last episode, and Parad. There's, like, they're not really their own characters. They're chess pieces on the storyboard, so I hate to say it, I have been liking Excite a lot, but it has had the worst monsters of the week, and the entire enemy faction's just been lackluster, despite them having more personality than the Mirror Monsters, who were literally just meant to be cannon fodder of the week amongst the big Rider War conflict. It's like, what would have a series been with them as the actual intended antagonists instead of the arc-related Kamen Rider? But yeah, Kronos has gone off the deep end of controlling God of gaming, Game God, Game Deus, and so most of the fight is just... most of the episode in the background is Emu and Parad out of action. I shouldn't say out of action. Out of focus of the story as they keep Game Deus from fighting, or not fighting, infecting anyone else, while Taiga, Nico, and Kagami are tied up treating the patients. And pretty much Nico seeing for herself what Emu has with how she helps keep up the spirits of one of the children that's infected. I think it's this kid that was from the beginning of the series, Emu's first patient as Ixaid, but don't quote me on that. I'm terrible with names. I didn't bother to look it up. I'm not going to take the time to look it up. It kind of seemed like the same kid with how he has the... Okay, maybe Nico had it, but like they bonded over playing one of Genom Corp's games to just take their mind off of the debilitating state of Game Deus's disease, because Nico has become familiar with the pain of suffering through that affliction. And that ends up helping others keep their spirits up, and thus Game Deus's infection does not on screen result in any game overs, and them being digitized into the Protogoth shots. And I qualify it like that because the real star of this episode is Kiriya, and him getting quote-unquote revenge against Dion. Because Kiriya is a pathologist. He is a coroner. He uses the propagation of viruses to learn how to treat them, and the corpses they are taken from to make antibodies. And of course, by corpses, it is hilarious and just like perfect. It's just perfect how this all was planned, because he is kicking Kuroto's ass and causing him to lose lives all over this episode by continuously infecting him with Game Deus's virus to create antibodies against infection, already seeded through how Graphite took Game Deus's virus into himself to upgrade himself, and thus Kuroto and Kiriya both eventually gain immunity to Game Deus's virus. And thus, by that proxy, this should also mean that they are now immune to pause. Or, actually, I take that back. That might be in question because Graphite only had that ability after taking Game Deus's virus into himself, essentially taking a piece of Game Deus itself into himself, whereas Kuroto and Kiriya just developed immunity to its virus. So them being immune to pause might end up not being an actual thing. It seems close enough when initially thinking on it, but hearing it out loud makes me not so certain that's going to be what's happening. But I actually, I think this is the real highlight of the episode, as it's just constantly Kiriya venting all his frustration and having to work alongside the person who killed him and left him in the same... essentially left him as becoming one of the things that inevitably... not even inevitably, he is now part of the race that caused his best friend to die. And, it's like, this is... I don't want to say it's as intense as Emu's, cold rage to get Parad to learn what death means, because it's a stronger contrast between how the character normally acts and how he was acting in that episode. But this is definitely Liar Smile Kiriya at his most sadistic, as he definitely takes pleasure in... I don't want to say torturing Kuroto, as Kuroto definitely fights back in his dangerous zombie form, but you clearly see he's in control and is just wants to have it out with the mastermind behind all of this suffering. And it's clear by the episode that Kuroto still doesn't learn a damn thing, but Kiriya at least has taken his pound of flesh and depleted all but 5 of Kuroto's lives in them developing the anti-Game Deus vaccine, which they load into a new Gashot, which is voiced by both of their actors, and instead of just using it as a new transformation, they just slot it into the key slasher to shoot a Game Deus and instantly cure everyone. That's kind of what my problem with Game Deus here was. He continued... This is what should have been the end boss for the series, and likely will be for the movie, but here, it's like he's here and now he is an afterthought, because what normally would take a couple episodes to get to the special power-up that would do him in is all done in one episode, and he doesn't even get any fatalities in. So I don't even know what to describe how Game Deus ends up falling so easily. Though it's not Team Rider that does him in. Kronos sees the stat drops and, unwilling to let Kamen Rider Chronicle be cleared and thus make him lose all of his gambling cards, he kills Game Deus himself, and before Game Clear can complete itself to revive everyone, he absorbs the fragments of Game Deus into himself, as Kuroto had done with the death data of all of the previous Bugsters to help develop his own dangerous zombie form, and Kamen Rider Chronicle before, again, seeding from previous episodes, tying into the ultimate culmination of the series with how they're used later, and he injects all of that into himself, instantly killing him and then turning him into a Bugster. How did it automatically swap him into being a Bugster? Is that because his own system data was saved onto Kamen Rider Chronicle, the Master Gashot itself, so combined with whatever went crazy with his own... Maybe because he had the true ultimate antibody of the Bugster virus in him, it allowed him to resist Game Deus's virus, to absorb its power. This seems like it's not really... This does not seem like a great twist, even though it gets us Game Deus Chronos next episode. It's like there's something missing in this sudden evolution of Masamune into a Bugster through really, like, when both Kuroto and Kiriya did it, they needed to undergo a revival process. With Asuna, she was a Bugster born of taking someone else's life to become complete. So is it because Game Deus was enslaved to Masamune's will that when it took over Masamune's body, it post-game over to become a full, complete bugster, then Matsumone's own personality and save data memories then superseded it itself. It's like there seems to be part of the equation missing to this ultimate result, and it bugs me. It really does kind of bug me, because I really feel like Game Deus should be completely out of the series by this point to have let Game Deus be the final antagonist. He kind of is with the Game Deus Chronos fusion that's we're going to see next week, but this is definitely not the way I saw things going out with him at all. At least we're seeing Taiga level up to his own tertiary rider final form, which we don't see very often in the series, even though he'll just be taking on Kronos' power. Anything else I want to talk about? Kiriya is hilarious this episode as he just keeps layering bikes on himself. His standard level 0 Bakuso bike form, then he equips Shakuriki Sporks onto himself, and then he shows he has the other standard Bakuso bike Gashot, presumably taken from Emu, so he's riding himself while in his new Bugster body, where he put a bicycle-themed armor around his torso to protect him and make him more resilient to the Game Deus' virus and to fight Kuroto. It's like, this is bikeception. Hey, I heard you like bikes, so I put a bike on your bike so you can have a bike on your bike while riding your bike. Yes, it's like they've been building up to that one, and I'm glad they actually did get to showcase it, because it's all the right types of hilariously ridiculous that this show deserves. Anything else in here? Taiga and Kagami also get a few good scenes between them of the pair helping all the Game Deus infection patients, and it's like, with more of their animosity settled through recent events, it's clear they're finally allowing themselves to admit to the respect the two have between themselves. So this might be seeding for the end game, like the epilogue of the series, Taiga getting his medical license back, as while he seemed to have embraced the unlicensed doctor rhetoric and the game-obsessed individual he seems to have become because of his own guilt. It's like, are they pulling him back from the edge on that? Like, helping him return to the kind-hearted doctor he used to be before all of this? It's like, I'm wondering where they're taking this, if they're trying to lure him back to what he used to love doing before he became Snipe, and maybe that's leading to a culmination next week when they have him become the next Kronos. Like, the good guy Kronos. I actually like that they're doing that, because considering Snipe's color palette, it does more closely match Kronos and keeps everyone thematically color consistent between the lot of them. Okay, that's all I got. 2 good episodes this week. I'm not certain if I'll be discussing things further. I definitely want to get through X-Side, though. I think I might end up doing it, but regardless, if I do end up doing a vlog next week, I'll just see you all Friday.